Hi, we are the Headmaster Consulting, helping students with their university applications, providing them with end-to-end personalized and customized services for their college applications. This is another episode of the Headmaster Help, where we help you delve deeper into college admissions and their different aspects and invite industry experts to talk about their experiences and shed light on some tips and tricks that can help you ace your college applications. Today, we are glad to have Aarti Tank among us, who is currently working as a curator at the Maharaja Sawai II Museum Trust, the City Palace of Jaipur. She has completed her PG diploma from Birkbeck University of London and her Masters of Arts from Sotheby Institute of Art. She holds a rich experience in fine arts, having worked with reputed brands like Victoria and Albert Museum, Tank Fine Gems, the British Museum, etc. Apart from her experience with art, she has also worked as a freelancer, helping multiple students with their college applications, art portfolios, helping them ideate and bring their creativity to life. With the Headmaster, she has worked with multiple students, helping them get into universities like California College of Arts, Parsons Schools of Design, etc. We're delighted to have her on board today to discuss a little bit about how graduate students should approach their college portfolios when they're planning to study abroad. Welcome, Aarti. Do you want to introduce yourself a little to our audience?
No, I think you've done a very good job of introducing me, better than I could have. So thank you for that. So yeah, like you said, I've spent I think about 12 years now in the industry, academically and professionally, and it's something that I am quite passionate about and I love very deeply, which is why I help students who want to enter the industry, because this is something I wish I had when I was at their stage. So yeah, I hope to help others find their love for art as well.
Of course, of course. So, Aarti, like I said, today we'll be discussing a little bit about graduate students who want to work on their portfolio. So, what is that key difference that you would say is between the undergrad portfolio and the graduation students portfolio?
The biggest difference, at least to me, is that undergrad portfolio is can rely more heavily on basic principles or the foundation level of the field that you're going into, the aspect of art you're going into. Whereas for postgrad, you need very clear direction. Portfolios have to be very particular and they have to be customized to the T. You cannot have generic sheets, you cannot have basic sheets. It is something wherein there has to be a certain level of finesse attached, which is something you don't require that much in undergrad. In undergrad, it's more about raw potential, whereas here it is potential which is already discovered, which is halfway there but needs a final push, right? And it's also the point wherein you have made up your mind that, okay, this is what I want to do, right? And your portfolio, if you can align it to your future goals, whatever you're writing about in your SOP, it will be that much better.
Okay. So talking about SOPs, and do you think portfolios differ based on the country of application, the country that they're applying to?
Yes. And not just country, even the colleges you're applying to, it differs. Some of them will give you a very basic and a very abstract sort of overview or a guideline, as in they're leaving it up to you. Wherein for them, even seeing what you have selected is a part of judging your portfolio, because they tend to see that what do you value the most in your own work, right? That's a very important criteria. Whereas in certain countries, certain universities, they'll give you very precise guidelines for particular programs. Like, you know, if you're doing fashion at UAL, you'll be asked to record a project and do a video summary for it. And in certain places, they'll just ask for 10 sheets of photographic work and so on and so forth. So always double check in each individual course profile for each university. There is no one size fits all for portfolios. And this is true not just across the world in different countries, but within the same countries as well.
Okay.
So no two institutes have the exact same portfolio requirement at a postgrad level. That just does not happen. You will, of course, be sending across same sheets to a few of them, but then there will be changes that need to be made according to each campus.
Okay. So when we talk about different campuses having different requirements, do you think developing a portfolio could differ between students who have completed their undergrad from India versus undergrad from some international university?
Well, yes and no. So for undergrad, you spend the first 2 years developing your core principles before you go into fine tuning, and then in your final year and third year if you are in a 3-year bachelor's, but in most cases a 4-year bachelor's, it's in your final year that you start to become more individualistic in your choices and you start to reflect your own electives within the program and everything, right? This is true regardless, but one key difference is the methodology in which we are taught. The methodology in India is different from that of the West, and that is shown even in the way the portfolio is made and put together. So in the West, you put a lot of emphasis on the process, wherein you would want to show the thought process, you would want to show how you arrived at that conclusion. Whereas in India, at least, we tend to focus our portfolios more on what our final output was. So there's difference in methodology, which is definitely there, but it's something which can be overcome very easily. You just need to know the how and the what, and that can be done.
Yeah. Okay. And when we talk about applicants who already have work experience, how do you think they can incorporate their professional projects and accomplishments to their postgrad portfolios?
Oh, quite easily. One thing about it is, as long as it's your own work and it's something wherein you have had a sort of a significant enough involvement. It's not something that you've just seen in passing. It has to be some project at work in which you have been involved in depth in at least one phase of it. And as long as you're acknowledging that, oh, I was a part of this particular part of this project and going into more detail in that one aspect, you can for sure include it. And it is something which is actually appreciated because when we enter the professional realm, it sort of gives us. So see, doing art academically is very different from doing art professionally. In academia, it's more about satisfying yourself or that faculty member who's leading the project, right? Whereas professionally, it's about the client. They might give you a brief and then end up changing it completely, and all of it, and what the final deliverable is might end up being completely different. So professional experience teaches you a lot about, growing within the industry, and also teaches you the smaller nuances of it. So if you have any professional experience, including it is a must, and you should, because A, that's the most relevant work you'll have and the most recent.
Yeah.
So these are two factors for which that I always say do include professional work, but always be clear in your descriptions what was your particular involvement in it. Because once you enter an agency or a professional entity, you're not doing everything yourself as you would as a student. There are departments which each do their own things, right? So as long as you admit that this was my responsibility, that should be fine.
Okay. Like talking about work experience and working in teams and collaboration. So how do you think students can enhance their portfolio by elaborating more upon their collaborative skills or interdisciplinary programs or their career goals and aspirations through their portfolios?
Okay, so this is very, very detailed and very, very nuanced. I'm not going to do all of it I'll keep it as short as I can. And the short and sweet of it is, you do have to do that. The more diverse you can make your portfolio, the more inclusive you can make your portfolio, the better your chances are, because it'll reach a larger audience, right? So having interdisciplinary skills or having experiences in different parts of the industry is a plus, right? Like even in my own case, I went through the spectrum. I went as an artist taking commissions, to working in advertising, to then working with auction houses, working with art fairs. Now I work in a museum for a private collector, right? So it's an entire spectrum, and each experience has added to my knowledge base. However, when I apply for a role, I do have to cater my application to it, right? I'm picking out what I've learned from each experience, which fits to the current role I'm applying for, right? It works the same way with a portfolio, wherein whatever interdisciplinary approaches you've taken, keep all of them. They are an add-on to you, which other candidates don't have, but it has to be customized towards the major you are applying for. Okay, you can't just blindly put things in any order. That might fly as an undergraduate. That doesn't work as a postgraduate. It has to align with the program you're applying to. And the program you're applying to has to then align with your future goals, because a lot of SOPs that we write for a postgraduate course actually conclude with what our 5-year or 10-year plan is after the degree, and how is the degree helping us with it, correct? So in that aspect, whatever you are defining in your SOP has to connect with your portfolio, and that will only happen if your portfolio connects to your choice of major. So keep those individual influences, but customize it and sort of tweak it and tailor it to fit the major. That's I know it sounds very abstract, but that's basically it.
Yeah. So when you talk about connecting their portfolios to connecting to their majors, so is there any strategy that postgrad students can apply to make sure that there's a connectivity between their majors and their portfolios?
Yes, the easiest. Well, you can get a counselor to help you through it, who will do the background research for you and give you targeted assignments for it. But if you would like to do the research yourself, a great way to start is to go through the course curriculum and the list of subjects and electives. Break it down completely and see what all is covered within the program, and try to connect your sheets to it. By that, I don't mean that you make the sheet directly in that, what you would for that class. That's not expected, because if you could, why would you go to that class? But something that leads to that, right? Like, for example, if you are doing, say, fashion design, and you, one of your modules is based on merchandising, right? Fashion merchandising. And then you submit a sort of illustrative report wherein you've done sourcing and merchandising for a local company here as part of your work ex. That ties into that course, right? That's what I meant, that you read through the course profile and see what elements you are going to be taught, and then what elements you are emphasizing you want to learn the most about in your SOP. And then you pick and build on that.
Okay, yeah. So when we talk about tying all of it together, how early do you think applicants should start building on their portfolio when they're applying for their PG programs? Because towards like working throughout the years, there's so much progress and so many updates. How do you think they should go about it?
I generally say try not to include anything that's older than 5 years. 5 years is a massive amount of time in art. Usually we can barely fit work we've done in 2 years. Like if you're a creative, you would know this, that you end up with so many sheets and it becomes so difficult to choose that you have to stop yourself sometimes. And a great way to do that is time, because 5 years you evolve and you change as a person completely. You are no longer the same person, right? So even if you want to show growth and you want to show sort of the skills you have developed over time, genuinely don't go beyond 5 years. That's too old. That is something that even you will find alien now, right? So a good way is pick works which are more current, like start like putting together your portfolio with what is most current, working your way backwards. Like in selection, the layout can depend on you, but in terms of selecting what goes in, always select what's most current, working backwards. Select a wide range of things and make sure that whatever you're doing sort of shows the growth that you have sort of gone through in the period that you're picking. Okay. But never more than 5 years.
Okay. So when we talk about evolving and growth, like we see that people are growing, people are evolving, so is the art industry. So how do you think that people are going about all the digital art, all the AI softwares being incorporated in college portfolios?
Oh, they're going very well, because honestly, you can't study art these days without learning softwares. I think be it something basic like Photoshop or something very industry specific like After Effects, you do have to learn it. It makes your life a lot easier. It gives you skills that probably the previous generation thought impossible, and it gives us the ability to create so-called magic, right? So that's something that we learn as part of it. It is a must, and it has become in a way that it's impossible to work in the industry without it. Right? You do need basic tech literacy these days to do anything, and art is exactly like that. You need that. There are exceptions to this, however. If you are in something such as like fine art of like painting, sculpture, wherein you have no technical aspects, you don't require it. However, there are evolutions in that as well, wherein for sculpture, you might have artists who work entirely on 3D modeling. They'll create an entire digital rendering and get it created through a 3D printer. Right? So those styles are also evolving to incorporate technology. However, they're not restricted to it as design is. Like today, designers can't function without software at all. It just does not work anymore, right? The way we have evolved, we do need software. But those traditional fine art fields, they are divided into two. One who require it and one who can still work without it. So depending on which part of the industry you belong to, you do need to know some of it. If you are in the management side of it or the cultural and heritage management, like I am now a curator, then you might not need design software so much. You would rather need things like collection management softwares and so on and so forth. So every part of the art industry has its own set of softwares. And that is something that you learn as you work in it. And at a postgraduate level, you are expected to at least know the basics of the field that you're into. Right? If I'm going for a postgraduate in graphic design, I should know the 3 basic softwares for graphic design. No? That's expected of me, and that's pretty normal. It works the same way. So depending on which part of art you are in and in what sort of a practice you are in, you do require some of it.
Okay. So are there any particular resources, workshop, or tools that you personally recommend to the applicants creating their postgrad portfolios?
If you do not know the softwares, if your university for some reason did not train you in it, please learn them. There are tons of online programs.
Yeah.
And so I'm self-taught. The way I learned is I used to set myself a project and I would keep trying till I got, because I would have a visual in mind. Okay. Every art student will agree. We have a particular image we want to create. And then the struggle is, how do we create it? Right.
Yeah.
And I would not stop till I created it. I would watch tutorials, ask my seniors, all of it till I put it together. That's how I learned all the softwares that I know, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't go to a coaching center again. I need to just work and get it done. Right. So there are ways in which you can learn. Even if you don't want to go into a course, or if you did not learn at your university level, you can still learn now. And I highly recommend learning it before you go for your postgrad, because postgrad is about 50% networking, 30% sort of knowledge enhancement, and 20% industry integration. Okay. In order for the other sort of 70% to work, you have to have the basic knowledge so that the 30% can then sort of support the other 40% growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hope that makes sense. Sorry, bad example, but yeah, that's my point, that you need to know the basics at least of the part of art industry you're going into in order to be able to get the most out of your postgraduate program. Because imagine if you're in a program wherein, so for example, when I was studying, if I did not know what collection management software was, or if I did not know how museums have integrated their loans and exhibition systems to an online platform, and how the registry system has completely sort of evolved, I would have had a very hard time in my class.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying I knew everything, but I knew these things existed, and I knew what the core sort of elements of it was. That, you know, we need that software for documentation. What is the basic principles of documentation? I knew that much. That particular software I picked up in class as we were doing it, but I at least had the knowledge of its, like, I was aware of what all it contained, and I knew that give me 1 week, I'll pick up the rest.
Yeah.
Right. Get to that stage. And that you can do it on your own, do it through tutorials, do it through trial and error. You are at a postgrad level, you are no longer a kid. Okay, yeah. I'm a strong believer of, if you're going for a master's program, you're already a professional. And that was how my professors treated me as well. I was never allowed to even call them sir or anything like that. They're like, no, you're a professional. We talk to each other like two equal professionals. Yeah. So they gave me that respect, and that taught me that, oh, I'm no longer a kid, even though I might be a student, quote unquote. Yeah. I'm no longer that young of a student, and I need to be that mature, right? Yeah. So you are old enough to make your decision as to how you want to learn it. Just do learn those. Okay, softwares help, and they are a requirement in the industry. Another thing I would say is, even if you are in a practical or a studio art curriculum, like, you know, something which is practical design or practical painting or whatever, get basic information about the history of it. Art history or design history is a part of your curriculum. And if you have to start from scratch, it'll be a pain to make up for it. Most Indian institutes mandate you learn it. But in my experience, most students put it off, and they're like, as long as we get 40% and pass, let's just ignore it. We focus on our studio classes. Don't do that. Okay. Trust me, learn your basics, because that will save you time there. Because see, we have 33% as passing in India. They have 50% as passing there. You will struggle. You will not pass, and you'll end up repeating your year. So please get your theoretical basics in place. Just the basics. They will help you build on it, but at least don't be like completely blank.
Okay. Okay. So when you talk about having this basic right, there are some students who are transitioning from a different field of study to this. So how do you think they can incorporate or showcase their passion for art, even if they're from a different field altogether?
Okay, so in that case, you choose your program carefully. There are certain programs that are built in a way that anyone coming from any stream can integrate into it. So my master's with Sawai is an auction house, and that was their education wing, their Institute of Art. It was designed in a way they wanted professionals from different fields coming together to get this master's and then work in the auction industry, which meant that I had classmates who did things like economics, who studied business, who studied management, who studied history, archaeology, all of it. And it was a mix of us. And I was a studio artist, right? So it was all a big jumble of things. And we all were given different inputs, and we were trained from the ground level up. We weren't expected to have that base knowledge. Okay, we were expected that you know nothing about this industry, nothing about fine and decorative arts, and we are training you from scratch. So I chose my program with that knowledge that they will train me in that way. If I had instead gone for a program of like a master's level study in art and aesthetics or something like that, I would have struggled because I knew nothing of it at that point, right? And those programs expect you to have base knowledge. So one way to do it is to, make sure that you are differentiating the programs you're selecting, do thorough research before picking your course. The other way to do it is a lot of, so art is technically very subjective, right? It's not something absolute, right? So as long as you have that general awareness and that sense of aesthetic, and you read enough, you are conscious enough of all the things happening within the industry, you can still sort of convey your passion through that. Knowledge in art does not just come from a degree. It's not limited to what it says on that piece of paper, right? Yes, it will care if your, say, undergraduate is in physics, but then there are ways that connects to art. You can then do physics, chemistry, and then go into art conservation, right? Which requires a scientific background. Art today integrates with everything. There is art law, there is art therapy, there is art, like with trademarks and copyrights, there is IPR law, entirely different sections. There is art market and art business, which talks about how to build a business out of it. And, so there are different ways in which you can integrate into art as well, right? As long as you have that passion for it. And that passion for it, you say that how I will use my business knowledge to make my way into the art world, right? Through art business. Or how I will use my strong suit of knowing science to make a mark in the industry, right? That's how I would recommend that. Don't discredit your previous experience. Rather, add to it by your love of art. And a great way to cultivate that is to read, to go to exhibitions, go to shows, look at what's happening in the industry around you.
Okay. So when we talk about this, people coming from different backgrounds, how do you think their portfolios would differ from someone who's already in the arts background already?
So essentially, not all careers in art require a portfolio. It is only subjects which require you to have studio practice that require a portfolio. By studio practice, I mean when you are actively creating something. Technically, I work in the art industry, but I no longer create for commercial use, right? I might paint for myself, but I'm no longer painting to sell it in the market, right? Rather, I am taking someone else's work and presenting it to the public. So then for me, my submission for this particular course was exhibition reviews and sort of a detailed description on sort of an artist summary and all of that, which is a way for them to see how well will I be able to do this in the future commercially, right? For Sotheby's, I had to put together a project report talking about how to feature a sale. Or like for my final project, I ended up doing an entire exhibition hang curation. So it's very different. Not every subject requires a visual portfolio. A lot of them might want a written portfolio, wherein you are elaborating on a concept. So if you're going from a field wherein you have no sort of experience of practically creating art, you can go for one of these fields, which even though you don't practically create, you are actively involved in that process, right? In art management or something like that, wherein you would rather be asked to submit a written sample. So a lot of it depends on which course you're choosing, which is why I said for postgraduate level, the most important thing is to choose your program very carefully.
And Aarti, as we see, like for most application processes, LORs form a very big chunk of it as well. So how do you think students should approach LORs, or what big of an impact do LORs have on their admissions, especially coming from a different background as well?
I think the sort of impact is roughly the same as it is for any other subject. Only difference is here, instead of getting, so for an art student, an LOR from your dean or your counselor will not have as much weightage as an LOR from your art teacher, because they understand your process and your theory more. Similarly, if you are coming from a job, getting an LOR from someone who has seen your work firsthand, or from a client who, for whom you were creating those deliverables, will carry more weightage, because they are talking about your actual work prowess, as opposed to a boss who has probably met you twice and knows nothing about the actual work you do. It's more about expressing practically what knowledge you have. Like, she's good with this software, or he has great skills in creating this, so on and so forth. So I think it is equally as important. I think there's no application in any subject where LORs aren't important. They are. The only difference is we get them from different people.
Okay. And are there any common pitfalls or common mistakes that you see postgrad students make while they're creating their college portfolios? And are there any tips on how they can avoid them?
Two kinds. A, never ever plagiarize. Okay, universities are very smart, and like we said, technology is very good these days. It's very good to find out when you've taken an idea from somewhere else or when you are influenced by someone else. Don't do that. You're a postgraduate. You're supposed to have your own individual voice. Undergraduates get away with that bit of influence. You will not. You are expected to have something original, something true to yourself. It does not have to be perfect, right? They're not expecting perfection, but they're expecting something unique and individualistic. Okay, that's point A. And point B is when you are submitting, whenever you're submitting a portfolio, in the visual sense, when it's the one with all the artwork and everything, always accompany it with a description of your text. A lot of Indian students don't do that. They don't explain what their thought process was or what the sheet entailed or what they did, none of it. Please do that. How is the jury supposed to know otherwise? And the other thing is, if you're doing the written portfolio wherein you're submitting a critical review or something like that, if you are writing an article or things like that, in India, it might be okay to just start and write and finish, and that's okay. But in the West, they expect referencing. Learn the style of referencing that works in the country of your application and make sure you're referencing correctly. That will give you points which others don't have, and that will get you closer to that application. One of the reasons we get flagged for plagiarism a lot is, even though we might be stating that, oh, you know, it was in this book, because we haven't referenced, the softwares will pick it up as plagiarism, right? So that is a way in which a lot of written entries get flagged for plagiarism, is simply because they haven't referenced. If you had just referenced, you would have been free and clear. Okay. So these are two things I would say pay attention to a lot. And third thing is, a lot of people think that jo kaam kiya hai sara dal do. Sorry, put everything that you've done. That is not what you do. You do not do that. You are selective. You pick and choose and decide what goes where. No two institutes will get exactly the same portfolio or exactly the same written entry even. You will have to change it. You have to tweak it. It's like any other university essay. You can't send the same essay to two universities. You have to change it, right? It works the same way. An artist statement might work for one university. It will not work for the other. Read about the university, read about the course, read about the expectations, and edit it out. Because if you don't do that, you yourself are diminishing your chances.
Okay. Yeah, so now that you have mentioned artist statement, let's talk a little bit about that, about how students should approach their artist statements to basically demonstrate or showcase their passion for art, apart from their portfolio.
So artist statements are basically documents which are free form. There isn't a lot of structure in it, as long as it's an open essay. If it's something which is in a question answer format, there's a more structured approach to it. However, if it's an open form essay wherein you are given 500 or 1,000 words to write it, in that case, what they're expecting is something that will introduce them to your creative process and your approach to the field. So they want to know what drives you as an artist, what inspires you to create, what is something that you struggle with, how you overcome it, and how you feel that this coming experience of, going abroad, how will it enhance your artistic journey and artistic output? It is usually a mix of all of this, and the arrangement for it differs for each student because, like I said, it is not as rigid as a normal SOP. Artist statements have a lot of leeway to it. It has a lot of creative freedom. I've seen students submit artist statements in the form of poetry, because that was their vision, right? Universities are very liberal when it comes to this, but that makes it equally as hard as easy. Some people might find that liberty easy, but for some it's very difficult because they want that rigidity. We are used to being forced into a structure, but when you apply internationally, that structure is taken away and they are giving you freedom to create. So one thing I would say is get all your points together, right, on a piece of paper or however you want to do it, and then start to think, how do you want to present it? Does it have to be a prose? Do you want to do it in points? Do you want to write a poem? Do you want to write a rap? It does not matter, right? Anything and everything goes as long as it conveys all the information that is being asked and that you want to share. Okay. as long as you cover your entire creative process and creative journey, you have met the basic remit of an artist statement. Anything extra is a bonus.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I would say don't be that scared of it, but also don't take it very lightly. It is an important document. You do need to spend effort on it, but it's not a hill to go down.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Of course.
It's just what it is.
Okay, Aarti, so lastly, do you have any final words of encouragement or motivation for all our students who are preparing their postgrad portfolios?
Have fun with it. Have a lot of fun with it, because this is a fantastic industry. I doubt you will find another industry wherein you could change your career trajectory every 2 years and still not lose a step. Right? Yeah. I have changed careers 5 times. I always went up in progression. I never had to go back. That is the beauty of this field you're in. You have immense potential of transferable skills. You have immense integration within the industry, and it's easy to shift, right? So you're very lucky, and you're very, very smart to have chosen a fantastic field with all its pitfalls. I won't discuss that, but yeah, the positives are that. So have fun with it, and make sure you include at least one piece that you genuinely love in your portfolio. Because when you write about it in your statement, in your SOP, or when you talk about it in your interview, that love, that passion shows. Trust me, once you've done enough of it, you will see that you can tell, okay, this candidate genuinely loved this project, right? So that is something which interviewers look for. They yearn to see that passion in you, right? So put things that you love. They might not be the most perfect pieces, but if you loved creating them, you loved the thought behind them, you had fun in the process, add that. Add that and let that joy show, let that joy shine, because that is what will set you apart from the rigidness of all the others, right? So be free with it and just like have fun with it is what I would say.
That is definitely some great piece of advice, Aarti.
Yeah.
Is there any final words that you want to say? Yeah, sorry.
All the very best. Have fun, and I hope you get into all your dream universities and you end up doing wonderful, creative, beautiful things with your life. And yeah, have fun, enjoy, and sort of fall in love with art again.
That is such a sweet thing to say. So, Aarti, that would be all for today's episode of the Headmaster Help. Thank you so much for sparing the time to shed light on this very crucial aspect of college applications for all the art students. Thank you once again for your time. It was wonderful having you, and I loved your thought about art.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you. And I hope this helps at least one person.
I'm sure more than one person.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anshul.
And for all your other college application related queries, feel free to reach out to us at the Headmaster Consulting. We're a team of college consultants helping students get into their dream universities by providing them end-to-end personalized tailored services to ensure seamless application process. Furthermore, if you're looking for anything more specific, we also help students with their resumes, cover letters, portfolios, etc. So feel free to reach out and leave the comment section below.